we are here with Remy Schmaltz, General Manager of Decisive Farming. Welcome here, Remy.
Hi, Lindsay. Thanks for having me.
Yes. All right. So, interesting conversation came up over Twitter, and we've been hearing a lot of it. And you have just finished up some meetings where you were hearing a lot of farmers going big into wheat for 2013. Tell me a bit about what you're hearing.
Well, it seems to be that, with the experience growers had with canola last year, with some disappointing yields and some wheat really coming from behind as kind of the knight in shining armor and becoming, on many farms, the most profitable crop. And right now, the economics on wheat are looking really strong. We're at historically really high prices. We've seen, like, if you took out that crazy, $20 wheat spike in the Minneapolis, we're really sitting in that 90 to close to probably 95 decile in the market. So meaning that in the last 4 years, the market spent 95% of the time below where we are today, or have been in the last, 4 months.
Yeah.
And so I think, growers are recognizing this, and looking at adjusting rotations accordingly.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think canola disappointed a lot of farmers this year. There were a lot of knocks against the crop. Does that mean that same perfect storm of things is going to happen next year? No, but wheat is exciting for the first time in a long time. And I can see where, farmers are very comfortable with the crop. They've got tons of varieties that they know that they've got access to, that they know will work on their farm. They're comfortable with growing the crop. And these prices just make it really attractive. But I mean, internationally, it's grown everywhere, right? So what's the risk in farmers, kind of saying, all right, I'm going hard into wheat for 2013?
I think the risk is pretty huge. And the reason I say that is that, Canada represents about 4% of the wheat production in the world. We think of ourselves as like the big wheat producer, but we're smaller than the US, China, India, Europe, missing maybe someone else in that list. But, so yeah, we are a major player. But the thing is that, we've got over 80% of the wheat is grown in the northern hemisphere. So it's yet to be planted this year. We're going into it with really high prices. And as you said, they can grow it anywhere. They grow it in the desert in the Middle East.
Yeah.
So at these high prices, we're dealing with commodities. High prices will, ration supply ration demand on it and increase spur supply in the market. So I think that we will see growers around the world looking to wheat and looking to plant it. So I think there's a lot of risk for the producer who is just looking at today's economics and saying, hey, this is what I'm going to go and do, without really thinking through the repercussions of, after that seed's in the ground, what if the prices drop? And, so the discussions we've been having with some of our clients have really been about, okay, we need to be having a bit of a longer term view of the market and looking at how do we really capture that margin that's there today, because it won't necessarily be there, in spring or this summer or next, after harvest. And how do you go about doing that?
Yeah. No, I mean, at the same time, certainly from I've just moved back to Manitoba from Saskatchewan, and talking with farmers in both provinces, rotations could use some breathing room. Let's say the canola rotations. We need to get away from either a cereal pulse or a cereal oil seed and stretch out our rotations a little bit. Canola rotations especially, we're seeing, I think 2012 was definitely a bit of a kick in the pants to show us what can happen when you've got inoculum levels or pest levels that have really built up. So, I mean, it's a good problem to have several profitable options. But, this is really where you're right, that farmers have to look at the balance of what they can grow and grow well, and recognize that we can really overproduce really quickly for this crop, and that canola probably, they might have got burned a bit this year, but overall, I think this year was more of an exception than the rule.
it is, but I think that it comes back down to the fundamentals of the commodities, that we're dealing with. And when we look at canola, canola is directly tied to soybeans. It really gets pulled around by the soybean market. And 42% of soybeans are produced in South America. So they're currently planting right now. Conditions have been pretty good. Brazil's about 40% planted. And, when South America started planting soybeans, we were sitting around $18 soybeans. Now we're around $14. But the thing is that at those kinds of levels, and we have to remember, we think of canola as a really high input user. It takes a lot of fertilizer. I mean, nothing like corn, but it's heavy on the inputs.
Yeah. Versus
soybeans, it's a huge input user. So, in South America, they're going to be planting soybeans wall to wall. I mean, these are huge economics for those producers. And I think on the canola front right now, we've most recently seen a pretty big drop in the last 2 weeks of, $45 in the nearby futures and $35 out into November 13. But we need to be thinking about, okay, well, yeah, we've seen this drop, but, we have to try to protect the margins that are in canola as well. And I think that one needs to look at how they can buy themselves a bit of time to see how the South American crop plays out. And whether that involves doing something on the futures or options in terms of, out to March, and looking at protecting that to buy yourself some time to see what happens there before you go wall to wall wheat because of the economics.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are good problems to have, but obviously, I mean, you're right. This is a time for farmers to sit back and sort of look at this on the bigger picture, on the international scale, and maybe use some of these tools that they have at their disposal to protect themselves on some downward price risk. Absolutely. Thanks so much, Remy. We'll talk again soon.
You bet. Thanks, Lindsay. Have a great day.